In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how enlightened people manifest, showing you the things that they do and the way that they are in order for them to do that in a very powerful way. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how enlightened people manifest, revealing to you the things, the thought processes they have, and even going beyond the thought process they have in order for them to actually do that. Now, these are going to be some things that I've noticed in either studying people that we consider to be enlightened, and either from the book The Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda, or looking at some of the things Osha was able to do when it comes to him and his royces. If you look at some of the other enlightened people that we generally assume to be at that level of consciousness, there are certain things and there are certain perspectives that they have that make the process of manifestation so much easier. And what we can begin to do is take some of those perspectives and see how it can change some of the ways that we think about the process of manifestation. Because if we start to adopt some of those similar processes, there's a chance that not only will we raise our consciousness, but as we raise our vibration, we also will be attracting things to us in a much easier way. So if you were to read that of Autobiography of a Yogi, which is from Yogananda, who was an enlightened person in the early 1900s. I think he died in around 1950, I believe. And he documented, and it's an autobiography, it was him documenting and showing his life and what he went through when he was going through the process of quote-unquote becoming enlightened, but also the interactions he had with his gurus and the interactions that he had with other enlightened people in India. And there are many stories in there, anything from people that were levitating to that of people that did not need food to eat, then that were living for years and years without eating any food. There were stories of things materializing. His mom had this locket that materialized in her hand because a guru told her that that was going to be a locket she was eventually going to give to Yogananda, and she went into meditation. This locket just appeared in her hand after a couple minutes of meditation. There are many stories of things like that happening when it comes to understanding manifestation and even how reality works in a powerful way. So looking at that, let's look at some of the perspectives that enlightened people have that makes it so that they're really able to manifest in a very easy way. Now, first off, the underlying arch belief or the way they see reality is different than the way that we see reality. In the way that they see reality as a combination of light. They see everything as light. They have the awareness that everything in the world is different compositions of light, and because of that, there is no need to give one importance to one and not the other. And because they see it as simply light, it makes it easier for it to be moldable, for it to be changeable, for it to be flexible. If you give so much credence and so much power over to things being so solid and being so real, then it becomes much harder to experience. There's this one analogy that Yogananda uses. And then what he does is he talks about consciousness in general. And he says what happens is when you go to a movie and you have this film projector and this light that's being shown through these frames onto the screen, you will watch that movie and you will enjoy that movie. You will even suspend some of the belief that you are watching a movie so that you can immerse yourself in it and relate to the movie so that you get some type of effect out of it. However, at the end of the movie, and at any point, you could realize that it's just moving pictures on a wall. But if you get value out of it, it's because you related to it and you internalized it. But at the greater fundamental basis, you realize that it is all light in different compositions that's being projected onto the wall. In the same way, life in general is all light. We just give things a different sense of realness because we are immersed inside of it. But you see, enlightened people understand that even though that projector with the light shining through it and we may suspend belief and watch a movie, they have the awareness that life is no different at all. Life is the same exact way. It is different compositions of light. It is different combinations of it, and because of that, changing something is a very minor thing. Because also, they aren't even attached to it. It's like being attached to a movie. You don't have to be attached to the movie. An enlightened person is not attached to what other people think. An enlightened person is not attached to exactly how things happen. The enlightened person is very neutral in their observation. They are not giving importance to different things. They are just there. You have someone like Osha, for example, who people would just give him Rolls Royces because he had a fascination with Rolls Royces. So he would have that, and he would have that desire, and he didn't even have to make the money for it. People, rich people, would literally just be like, here's my Rolls Royce. You can borrow it, you can have it, here, take it. And he had many, many Rolls Royces because of this. Could it be because he simply loved Rolls Royces, he appreciated them, and he was not attached to it whatsoever, and because he was in a high vibration, things like that would just allow themselves to come to him. So, enlightened people manifest in such a way that they are not attached to the outcome, and that they also realize that life in general and everything we experience in life is simply light. It is different compositions of light, and they do not identify too much with any one thing. Now, another thing I've noticed in enlightened people is that when it comes to this process, when things really start to happen for you, is when you have an intention to go with the divine universe. You can call it whatever name you want. But when you merge with the divine, when you be humble and you allow this light to fill your body, and with the intention of adding value to other people, the energy begins to carry you in a very powerful way. So many times when I was reading Yogananda, the book Autobiography of a Yogi, there was one time when one of the gurus, after he became enlightened, his guru told him that anytime he want, his guru would materialize for him. That's another thing as well. They're not bound by time and space. There's some gurus that were able to literally materialize in front of Yogananda. This sounds impossible. It sounds impossible from the mindset that says that everything is based on form. Everything is solid. But you see, they have gone beyond belief. They have gone into a new state of consciousness. And the thing is after one of the disciples, I forget exactly who it was, became enlightened, and his guru materialized and said, anytime you want, you call upon me, I'll show up. He went on and went to one of his friend's house, and he wanted to show his friends what he could do. What happened is he went into a room. He said, let me go into this room. I'm going to call upon my guru, and you're going to see that there was no way he came into this room other than he materialized. He goes into the room. He closes the door. His friends are outside in the other room. He calls upon his guru. His guru comes. And he says, Guru, I have these people here. I would like them to come in to see that you're real. He said, don't do that because that is not a divine type reasoning for doing so. Just to prove it to someone else, and to prove it to someone else that probably won't believe it anyways. And he was right. Because then he begged his guru, said, let this slide this one time. Just do it because I don't want to look not credible to all these people that I just told that. So he said, okay. So these people come in. They look at him, and even then, the people were trying to figure out how the guru got in there. And his guru's message for him was, from now on, I'm not going to come anytime you call me. I'll come anytime you need me. But also, it must be in more of a divine type way. It must be something that's not to prove something to someone else. People say, they may talk about levitation. And they may say, why doesn't just someone levitate and you just put it on YouTube? And the idea behind it is that takes out the divinity of the process. It may sound like an excuse. You might be like, that's just an excuse not to do it. But the thing is when we talk about this level of if you could make something out of gold, if you could turn iron into gold, and if you had any intention whatsoever of selling that or making money on it, then it takes out the divinity of it and you won't be able to do it. It has to be done with a divine intention. And many times the divine intention includes the intention of adding value to other people. So if it's good for someone else, it's almost like the power will come through more. But if it's something that is just for an ego type gain or to accentuate the ego, then many times it may not actually happen. So it also has to do with merging with divinity, merging what is the best for all. When you do that, the energy will begin to carry itself. Because you see, enlightened people understand that we're all connected. There really is no separation other than the identity in our mind and the labels in our mind that says, I am you, I am me, you are you. And the more I emphasize me and you, the more separation we feel. Enlightened people don't know where they begin and where they end. That was one of the things, if you've ever seen Sadhguru's work. He talks about how he was on Chandni Hill or something like that. And he was on this hill in India. And he was staring out. And all of a sudden, he had his enlightenment. And he starts crying, bawling his eyes out. Because he couldn't find where he started and he began or where he ended. He didn't know what was him and what was not him. Because he dropped identification with form. And that caused him to be in a very high vibrational state, which is enlightenment. So you see, the higher up the vibrational scale we go, when we go from reasoning, which is the intellect, beliefs create reality, into that of love, we have to drop the intellect. We have to drop the beliefs. We have to just be. Enlightened people are just being. They are present to the moment, and many times we get distracted from everything else because we're here now, we want to be here, we're looking at here, we're looking at all these different parts instead of just being here now. Because they are being and they are embodying the present moment so much, they have more of their energy coming in, and then it affects more and more people. You know, they say that when you're around certain enlightened people, their energy just affects you. I've never been around someone like that, but apparently it's supposed to be a very powerful emotion and feeling because that state transference comes off. In a way, it kind of initiates people, which kind of makes sense because in Autobiography of a Yogi, there's something called Kriya Yoga. And in order to go through Kriya Yoga, you have to have someone that initiates you into it. Not that that person has to be enlightened, but there's a certain process, certain visualization process for bringing the energy through the body and aligning everything for Kriya Yoga. Now in general, the way that enlightened people manifest is the first thing they do is they're already enlightened, so they're in a very high vibrational state. They understand and they realize that everything in their life that they experience is a composition of light. And it is not necessarily real. That's another thing as well. We give so much validity and we think everything is so real, so because it's so real, it has that kind of effect. If you realize that life is a form of dream, your life will become a dream. And that was one thing that was very often talked about with enlightened people, is that this is the dream of life. There is more to this. We exist in higher states of consciousness beyond this light form, beyond this life form and light form. And because we exist beyond it, we realize that this is a temporary dream that we can enjoy right now. But there is so much more. There is so much more than just this. And enlightened people know that, so they don't give too much emphasis or too much power over to this type of process. So, enlightened people are in a high vibration state. They are not attached to the outcome. Because their thoughts are so clear, their intention also has much more power. So think about it. Normally I can set an intention to go do something, but if I have all these cloudy thoughts there, it's not as powerful. After I meditate or do yoga, my thoughts are much more powerful because I am so much more present to the moment. Enlightened people have no other thoughts that they're attached to. So when they think of something, it becomes the will. When in Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda is talking to one of his gurus. If one of his gurus says something to him, like, you can go do this or you will go do this, it's almost like it just naturally will happen. He believes in it so much that it will happen that it does happen. And that belief, it could be partially because of the belief he has in him, but it also could be because the other guru has such a clear intention and such a clear outcome that it just aligns to that reality, because this reality is just a composition of light. There is no necessity to attach to it, and because it's not real in the sense of things being so solid, it can be more flexible. So this is the power of understanding how enlightened people manifest, of how they're able to do that from an energy state, and how we can begin to adopt some of those ideas too. How can you adopt those ideas? First off, start to observe your thoughts. Don't be so attached to certain things coming in your mind, because then as you observe your thoughts, you have less cloudiness. Your thoughts then have more intention or more power behind them when you do have thoughts. You say, I'm going to go do this. I intend for XYZ. It has more power. Also realize you can merge with the universe. Have an intention of adding value. The reason I can do daily videos on YouTube is because I'm constantly having this intention of giving information, so the energy just comes to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do daily videos. It just comes through me because I have this intention of just giving. Doesn't make me a saint or anything, I'm just saying. That's what I do, is I merge with that energy. And in the same way, what you can begin to do as well is you can begin to look and realize that life is a composition of light. It's all moving pictures. Because it's moving pictures, you can rearrange those pictures. And by not being attached to anything, and understanding that the first goal you can have is to raise your vibration. As you raise your vibration, you will then begin to create things in a much more powerful way. Because then your thoughts have more power, your emotions have more power, you're in alignment. And alignment is where the power is. So, for this process, set the intention to raise your vibration. Find ways of doing that. I have many meditations that will help you to raise your vibration. I have a meditation that will help you to raise to a higher state of consciousness. If you listen to that meditation, I think it'll absolutely transform your life. Listen to it for 21 days and watch what happens. It'll be in the top of the description box below. It will help you to transform your consciousness. Read the comments on that video just to see what is possible. Also, I'll be doing more live Q&As on Instagram, so if you want to ask me questions, you can do so right here. And also, at the same time, I post daily content there as well. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification here next to the subscribe button so you can see the daily vids that I do. And other than that, as always, peace, much love, and namaste.